Streamed live on Twitch at LordBrandon10.
Welcome back, everyone, to another YouTube video and for another Lord's Cast podcast here, and we are back with episode 4. And today we're going to be discussing Destiny Rising end of service and that it could be potentially dying really soon. Before we get into all the amazing conversations we're going to have today, as always, I don't have a script. I kind of just speak what's on my mind. And I have, of course, bullet points to guide me through some of the different topics and conversations. So with that, let's get started. For this podcast here, I went into my community on Discord, and we opened up a new channel called Destiny Rising Feedback, and I asked everyone for their feedback on the state of the game. NetEase hasn't given us a state of the game, but we obviously can see it, so I wanted everyone's opinion. And we're going to go through, I'm going to try to go through everyone's opinion who posted in that channel, and just trying to hopefully put it to light. Hopefully NetEase sees it, they hear all of us. With that being said, my absence, I know a lot of you have been wondering, a lot of you have been DMing me. The game is just stale. There isn't, anything to run. It's the same thing every 2 weeks. You load up, you play Calamity, you get in there, you do your little unstuck strats or whatever the case is, you get your rewards the next 2 weeks, rinse and repeat. It's literally what the game has turned into, and it's to the point now where we're recycling characters, and we just got Ikora, which is the reason I held off on this podcast to see if, she was any different, but she's literally just about the same besides the, the subclass, and still, I don't know, that doesn't really move me in any particular direction. So I don't know, Destiny Rising just feeling a bit stale. I'm looking at moving to things like Duet Night Abyss. I'm looking at Division Resurgence when that launches. I cannot wait for that game to launch. I'm also waiting for Marathon. Marathon's going to be a pretty big game when it launches. I'm going to be on that literally every day until we get Division. But yeah, I want to go and move into a little bit more into the end of service side of things and continue that discussion. If you guys look on your screen right now, or for those of you who are just listening right now, this is a Gacha revenue report. The data is provided by Sensor Tower. From my understanding, this is a credible source in the mobile community. It's my first time on this. I've been looking at it for a few months now. And one of the things I want to point out here is the money and what they're making. It says current right now, they're sitting at around $643,000. But if we compare that to August, when the game first launched back in 2025, they reported revenue was $2 million. We had a really big spike in September, which I think is when the raid dropped, or at least the contest raid dropped, was in the month of September. That's when we had everyone over in Destiny Rising. Like, this is all eyes on deck. The raid had just dropped contest. It was Destiny Rising's first contest raid. Fair play mechanics, everything in motion. And so we had the highest peak back in September at $11 million with a reported 1.8 million downloads for the game, which is insane, literally insane. And then we start to have a bit of a drop off right after September. We go into October, we drop down to 3 mil, which isn't bad, but of course that is a substantial drop. And then we fast forward all the way till January, which is when this report shows here. And now we're at a measly $643,000 with a reported download of 158,000. So yeah, it's quite the drop off. I don't know what Bungie, I should have done my homework on this, but I don't know what NetEase licensed the IP from Bungie. I don't know what the cost was. I know there was speculation in the community that they were just trying to make their money back before they killed the servers or whatever. I'm not too sure. I haven't heard anything from NetEase regarding that. But this is the data from Sensor Tower here. And I don't know, it's not looking too promising. I mean, you load into Destiny Rising, there's no one in any of the activities. You try to do a strike, you're having to load in with bots, at least some of the time. Shifting gates as always, you're playing with the majority of bots. yeah, I don't know. It's just not looking promising. I want to go into point number 4 here, which may help elaborate some things, and it's the marketing strategy. I don't know how many of you know this, but I am in the senior creator program for Destiny Rising. Now there are there's 3 tiers. I'm gonna get into the 3rd tier here in a little bit. But there's 3 tiers to the content creation program that you guys may not be aware of. There is the 1st tier, which is regular content creator. There is the 2nd tier, which is where I'm at, which is senior content creator. We'll hold off on the 3rd one here in just a second. And hopefully if I explain it right, it makes sense. I don't understand the marketing strategy when it comes to the content creators. And I'm not meaning us, the content creators, I'm meaning NetEase giving us content to produce. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's just start with Jaren. They give us senior content creators early access to these new seasons, these new units, before the general public is able to play them. Now, and they give us the ability to also record, different things like that. They give us, the ability to record the new weapons, the new units, all that good stuff. The issue is they don't let us upload it until the day that content drops in the game. And I don't understand that from a marketing standpoint, because when we look at Destiny 2, and many of you know I did quit, I did leave Destiny 2. Destiny 2 does a way better job at marketing their game than Destiny Rising does. For example, with every DLC, and most notably Renegades, Bungie will fly people out to try the new game. I'm not saying NetEase has to fly us out, but Bungie is giving the ability to let these content creators play the new DLC, the new weapons, new builds, whatever the case is, record it, and they're able to upload said content months before the actual content drops in the game. And it builds hype. I remember watching a lot of D2 creators posting about Renegades, even the final shape with Prismatic, and all of those amazing things that we were getting in Destiny 2. And I was like, man, I can't wait to play that. But instead, NetEase doesn't let us upload anything, the little that we do get, until the day it launches. And I don't understand that, because all they're giving us is just a new unit and maybe 1 or 2 weapons to upload the day it launches. It builds zero hype. And so, most notably, I want to recall to now with Ikora, which is why I waited to put this video or this podcast off. They invited me again to an early test server to try out Ikora and the Truth rocket launcher that was just introduced into Destiny Rising. And I declined. I did not decide to partake in that event because the amount of work, which is quite easy to do, the film, Ikora, I can do all of that on day 1 with the trial. And that's what I did. So I went, played Ikora when it released to the general public the same day, which was yesterday, at the time of this recording of the podcast. I went in, training grounds. I went, trialed her character, filmed for about 10 minutes, edited, got it up on YouTube. And then when I get Truth, I'll make another video and upload Truth. That's it. It builds zero hype. There is no hype around any of it. So I don't know what their marketing strategy is, or why they choose to do things they do. I don't know. But for me, it makes zero sense. And then I've got people, and then the communication with the development team is honestly probably the most. It's so horrendous. I've never seen anything like it. When it came down to, I want to say, Caber, I had just got into the senior program. And I wasn't in any of the Discord channels or any of that. But, when I was finding out about some of these embargoes on when we're not supposed to upload or this, that, and the third. And I went ahead and uploaded the Caber video because I was green lighted to go ahead and do so in a private DM from them. And all of a sudden now I'm being addressed by multiple different creators saying, oh, you can't post this, you can't post this. So I took it down at the request of NetEase, and of course I had some shady stuff that I was doing because they gave me the green light. And all that because they didn't even put me into a Discord channel. All of that because they didn't even put me into a Discord channel. So the communication, the marketing strategy, I honestly don't even know what they're doing. And it's sad because it's a truly a great game that you can build hype around for the little that we are getting, and they're not doing it, man. They aren't. I don't know. So NetEase, if you're watching, we definitely gotta address that and move forward. And moving on, maybe we can provide NetEase some solutions. So I want to get into the Discord and kind of highlight a few people here who have spoken up. I want to first mention AJ the Wizard and Sequoia here. AJ the Wizard says 4 different things. He says 1, give us space in between different characters. 2, more events to be able to get those needed clusters or more activities that can help us with that. 3, more activities that can give us all the resources that we need, or put all the resources that you can get into one activity that help us or new players or players that need those resources. 4, more listening and understanding and feedback from the community. And then Sequoia kind of says something similar, where there should be ways to earn enough pulls there should be ways to earn enough pulls a month for each character. Everyone should be able to play, or should be able to free to play if they want, and get every character T0 going to T6 can then entice the whales, which I have no problem with. So I want to kind of address a little bit of what AJ said here. Now, the space in between characters, I really don't know. I know Season 4, we're not getting a unit. I believe we're not getting one according to the roadmap that they posted. So I'm not sure if that's going to help the game or not, because the way that they structure their seasonal story, if you consider it a seasonal story, is every time they launch a new unit, that unit then has its said own like storyline that you can do. It's like a few missions, a little bit of dialogue, cutscenes, whatever. So I don't know if they're gonna necessarily take an approach off of that, or what their plan is to introduce seasonal story if they were to do something like that. It is a good point to bring up. Maybe what AJ's saying is lower the amount of characters that we get, or just the time in which in which we get them, so that way they can focus on more story, bring the story, introduce Wolf, everyone has Wolf, and then you can push out content more faster that way instead of having to focus on building a new unit for this said story. I think that is a great idea, if they were to look at something like that. Now, I do agree so heartedly with AJ's second point and what Sequoia is saying here with more activities. We have been saying this for months. Literally since the end of the first Onslaught contest raid, we have been saying we need more activities. I had literally did a podcast back 2 months after the game dropped, and we held a panel with like 5 other different creators for the game. We have said this, we need more activities. At the very least, we need to put the clusters in something else with a low drop rate percentage to entice people to play some of these other different lobbies. The issue that you have right now is everyone is playing Calamity. The little that we do have is trying to play Calamity to get the coveted resource to build the units that we're getting in the game. We have been saying this, Destiny Rising, NetEase, whoever, we have been saying this. Please. And to even tie all the more back, he literally says in his point 4, we need more listening and understanding feedback from the community. Destiny Rising, you guys held a little panel. You guys went into your Discord, you held a Google, you put up a Google form, and if I can find any of the evidence or whatever, I'll try to put it up on the screen during the editing process for those of you who are watching the screen. But they literally held a little community panel, which content creators were excluded from being a part of. That said community panel was like a little someone from NetEase, and it was a small group of people, and that representative from NetEase was apparently showing seasonal plans, contents, and whatever to this small group of people, and to also gather some feedback. But you guys are listening, you guys hear us, but you're not implementing any of this into the game. And on top of it, you once again, you did not allow the content creators to be a part of those conversations. Just like you guys won't allow us to be posting, just like you guys won't allow us to post any of the early access content till the day the game launches with the new set activities. It makes zero sense. The marketing strategy on which you guys employ makes zero sense. Literally makes zero sense. Even eSIM comes out in the community here. And I'm going to put, this is from everyone. This isn't just me speaking, but eSIM even comes up. He says, he says, the community likes a few activities which are fun and rewarding to run. Fix them, build around them, increase rewards at times. There are too many activities without enough love and enough people for any of them. I'm letting everyone speak in this video today. I'm letting the entire Destiny Rising community speak because we truly love the game, and it's going to take all of us to speak up, which we are doing now, for any hope of this game being fixed before it reaches end of service. Kobayashi Maru says, suppressed photons are a horrible bottleneck. Why can't we get more than one guaranteed every week? For those of you who don't know, or for any Destiny 2 players who are watching this, suppressed photons are one of the items that are needed to level up exotic weapons in Destiny Rising. And right now it is kept at I believe it's like a 1.3% drop rate chance with Pinnacle Energy. And so you get 120 Pinnacle Energy a day, and you're only allotted 1.3% chance at getting a suppressed photon to level an exotic weapon. Which, might I add, exotics are needed. Some of them are needed to run Calamity Ops to get the exotic resource incandescent clusters, which are needed to level your units. So this whole resource economy is just quite literally intriguing, and it's terrible. So NetEase, we need to get a fix on that, like yesterday. So I want to get into Manila Killa. He brings out a lot of good opinions and facts here, and his last opinion, and more, not, I wouldn't really even call it an opinion, I'd actually call it a fact. We're gonna really dive into that here in a second, because a lot of people had a lot of stuff to say about that. But he starts off by saying more Sparrow Racing maps, because it's been pretty stale. A PvP option without light limitations like Iron Banner and D1, that would be pretty interesting. More PvP modes, Capture the Flag, Elimination 3v3. That is really interesting, like a Trials type of thing. More competitive, I do like that idea. New actual missions, maps, not just the same regurgitated missions with different modifiers. And I do agree. And for those of you who don't know what he means there, once again, whenever they do bring out new units into the game, which usually follows by new story, it's the same maps. Like, it's the same sandbox. Like, nothing's new. I think the only time we had anything new was Estella, which we went to, like, the Ascendant Plane or whatever it was, which is where the Ahamkara was. I think outside of that, everything is just the Red Sea Rift or Jiangxi Metro. And there's nothing new. It's just like the same two every unit we get. I think Hellhest may have been another difference. We went to the Iron Temple, but even still, the Iron Temple's a PvP map in this game. So like, everything is just reused, and there's nothing new or innovative around any of these maps. So that's a really good point, Manila Killa. I actually like that. I think I agree with you 1000%. I think we need more maps. If not more maps, just new areas to explore during these seasonal missions. I remember back in Destiny 2, we'd get a new season. Not every season would have like its own new map, but that map that they were reusing would be different in ways. Like, they'd add different like different areas or different paths you could take, just to experience that said story or whatever the case was. I know Season of the Wish. Now, Season of the Wish was interesting because they did reuse elements of Last Wish, the Last Wish raid, into that seasonal activity, but they added stuff on top of it. You know what I mean? Like it's like the little stuff like that they could do, which would make it 10 times better than where we're at right now. So I agree with you 1,000% on that. But Killa goes on to say, more modes that are less time-based, like Bulwark. I love my Hellhest, but all the speed events are heavily dominated by Hellhest and Ningfei. Now, guys, this has been a huge one in the Destiny Rising community. We're gonna jump into this here. So for those of you, once again, who do not know what he means by this, we have 2 units in the game. We have they're both hunters, both arc hunters. They're both summon hunters, actually, believe it or not. And you have Hellhest, which is a bow and linear fusion rifle units / support / heavy, generation unit. Then you have Ningfei, which is he has movement summons, and so he's used for kind of like moving faster to some of these regions in Calamity, which is how you post high scores, things like that. That's kind of what he does. He has the SMG and auto crossbow units, for any of you guys who don't know who he is. And Hellhest is literally in every, it's like she's needed in almost every single activity, literally. And I agree with him. I don't think Hellhest should be the only option when it comes to these end-game activities. I think we need to make Tan and Umiko more vibrant. Give those two, the ability to do heavy generation, or give everyone the option of getting heavy ammo synthesis. I mean, we had it in Destiny 1. We had the option of getting heavy ammo synthesis back in Destiny 1 and the ability to pop heavy whenever we needed it every 5 minutes. Why can't we add something like that into D-Rising? I'm pretty sure it's possible to make that happen. If they're worried about like heavy generation with the units, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to bring that to Tan and Umiko, but give everyone the option to at least make heavy on demand, and not keeping that exclusive to Hellhest, which is almost, I see a lot of T6 Hellhest that's able to make heavy quite quickly, because of one of the talent trees she offers. You're able to do it in 16 data analysis versus the 24. And they're able to make it somewhat regularly, but on the T1 Hellhest, such as myself, and I go into Calamity, I literally can't even make heavy until the very end of the activity. Like if we're talking about Calamity, right? Just this, for me, I go into Calamity as a T1. I can't make heavy until the very end of the Calamity run. But now T6 Hellhest, or T4, whatever the case is, they're able to make it like every other region. And it's like Hellhest is dominating in this, in this game for literally every activity. She was good in the contest raid. She was good. She was actually good in the contest Crota raid, excuse me. She's good in every single Calamity cycle. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. So we have 2 people who actually spoke up on this issue here regarding Hellhest. We have RK for Life. He says make more characters relevant for activities. You can do mostly any activity with one of Hellhest, Jaren, and/or Maru. Characters like Gwen and Estella have been sidelined for months. I agree with you 1,000%, Life. G5, the man, the myth, the legend, he actually comes in and responds as well. He says they need to buff other characters to Hellhest level or nerf Hellhest at this point. Oh my god, and this man read my mind. This is another issue. We'll get into this in a second. Hold on, G5. We'll get into it in a second. But G5 comes up and says, Unstuck in Calamity should be removed completely. More in-game content and, more in-game content than just Calamity and Expanse level 40. Okay, G5, hold on. One sec, G5. We're finna get into that. You're reading my mind. Let me work my way up there. But yes, so as many of you guys know, I try to stay away from the nerfs because Destiny 2 was like Nerfville. Every time you turn on the game, it was this got nerfed, or that got nerfed, or this got nerfed, or this got nerfed, or whatever. So I always try to say, start small. Like I always, when I'm playing, I always say, like, let them start small and then let them work their way up to it. I try to really stay away from the nerfing side of things, because you start doing that too much, you're just going to lose people in the sauce, right? I feel like I was just so lost in the sauce on what was getting buffed or nerfed or what got burfed or whatever the case may be. I just, like in Destiny 2, I just said, whatever, I'm just going to play the game. If it doesn't work, I'll find something else to use, because you get lost in the sauce when you start doing nerfs and buffs, and it's quite often they do it. So Destiny Rising actually has a good structure on when they do buff and when they do nerf, but I always try to stay away from the nerfs. But I do agree with your first half of the comment, G5. I do think they need to buff other characters, and when I say other characters, I'm not saying characters in general, I mean the things in their units, which is what needs to be buffed. For example, Ikora or Maru running anything other than Vergar Drill in the primary slot is completely buns. And that's the god honest truth, it is. And so if you're using the mythic grenade launcher, it's terrible. You're using the regular mythic rocket launcher, terrible. Both terrible. They can't compete in in-game content. None of it was being used during contest quota. It's all pointless, it's all terrible to use. You know what I'm saying? And so I agree with you wholeheartedly on the first half of your comment. Definitely everyone's kits. I mean, no one plays Shuan Wei. If you have a leveled up Shuan Wei, it's more for the aesthetics and for leaderboards, right? Because no one's running him in any piece of content in the game, because he literally just doesn't make sense to run in anything, or he just is not able to. And I would love to rock my Titan Pride. I would love to rock him, but he's just not. I mean, his kit is just weak, so we definitely need to. And we have said this in the very first Lord's Cast podcast, where they needed to reevaluate everyone and give everyone a buff. I mean, we're on what? We're almost close to, wrapping in on a year on this game, and we're still facing, the same issues on day one. They definitely need to buff, and I don't, why it hasn't happened, I don't know. But I agree with you. And I agree with life. We need to, I mean, Gwen was like a staple of this game when this game launched. I mean, we had the live action trailer, or the live action, whatever it was, for her. Her story was really amazing. She was good for like the first month maybe of the game. She was really good for contest raid, for Onslaught, and she fell off after that. And she hasn't been back in rotation since, where she was really pertinent. Same with Estella. Estella was up there as well. And those were like 2 gems. So I would love to see those units really come back and pack a punch. I feel like the only time I use my Estella now is if I'm playing Legendary Campaign on a Void Impact. And even still, I don't even know if I'm running that, because I could just run my Jaren. My Jaren, is just as good. So I don't know. But I do want to talk a little bit more on G5 in the last half of his comment there. The Unstucks and Calamity are atrocious. Now, once again, to kind of give a little bit more context for those of you who are just joining or new to Destiny Rising, or any Destiny 2 players listening in, if you guys are unsure what this means, in the game, it's not necessarily just tailored to Calamity. In the game, there is an unstuck button. And this unstuck button, essentially what it does is, if you click it, you press your start button, and then you click the unstuck button, what it will do is it will move you from wherever you are stuck at. So let's say you're stuck in a rock and you click it, it will clear you from that rock, putting you somewhere else. And so this has actually turned into be quite the exploit for the people who are running Calamity. And so what ends up happening in Calamity is, let's say you have you have 3 people on your team, right? It's Calamity is just a strike, for those of you who are wondering, where you just have to get the highest score possible. And so and it's a multiplier that counts down. So what people are doing is they'll have like a Ningfei who's able to run to the next region really fast, leaving the other 2 guys in the back to clear everything, so that way they get the highest score possible. And then those guys, what they're doing is they're timing the unstuck based off what the Ningfei is doing and how fast he's running. So that way they immediately teleport to the next region with the highest multiplier point possible and with the highest points possible, because they're using the unstuck button. And I've got to say, it's annoying. Like I'm taking my stance on it here. I am against unstucks, just like G5 is. I am against the unstucks in Calamity. I think it needs to be removed from the game altogether. It's actually gotten to the point where I have taken a stand against it so much to where I have uploaded videos now on not using any exploits. I think we need to go and let it be about skill. And I don't think skill is unstuck. Well, Brandon, you can say, you've never been the Overseer. You've never even been past Master 2. Yeah, no crap, because I don't do unstucks anymore. And I'm not going to be competing with people who are doing, I'm not going to be competing for who does the unstuck the fastest. No, let's go back and let's make it great again. Let's make Calamity Ops great again and fair again. No unstucks needed whatsoever. I know it's such a crucial and harsh point because a lot of people do it, but a lot of people do it because they have to do it because they're competing with the people who are doing it. So I think, in my opinion, get rid of the unstuck button. Literally, just get rid of the entire button. You fix Calamity in one action. Get rid of it. You fix 90% of the issues with it. All right, so my good old friend Mr. Revoker comes in to the Discord channel and he lets it loose, ladies and gentlemen. Revoker is such a good friend of mine. I'm glad I met him when I did back during the first Onslaught Salvation raid for the contest mode. Such a great guy. I'm happy he's a Lord's best. But he lets it all on the table. I'm going to go and put it up right now for you guys. He says there needs to be aspirational content to pursue. It doesn't have to be a raid every month, but at least give us something to do every month other than Calamity at this point. We pretty much quit now. Probably won't even touch the cycle, to be honest. If Ikora comes out as the next character, I probably won't play the game until another character releases, unless there's new content good to play. He goes on to say, they really dropped the ball with Crota raid. No Necrochasm. All the raid weapons suck. The cheating in the race. They just put out the bare minimum crap just so that they don't get effing sued at this point, it seems. He then goes on to say, the fact that we have a choice of like 3 to 4 characters to do in-game, quote unquote, Calamity with, each cycle is so dumb. People that do not have those characters, people who do not have those characters get screwed for a month at a time, and by the time they would be able to farm enough mats to maybe get a character up to power the cycle, to power the cycle is already changing. So people stuck in infinite loop of being behind unless they just upgrade characters for future cycles and stay irrelevant in the current month cycle. So there's a lot to unpack here with what Revoker said. I want to start off with his second point, with Crota actually. And Crota definitely had a lot of missed balls, just to say the least. Starting off with Necrochasm now. Destiny 1, Necrochasm was the raid exotic, right? Destiny 2, Crota, raid exotic was Necrochasm. Destiny Rising, Symmetry. It just doesn't make sense, considering that Symmetry was a seasonal weapon in Destiny 2 that somehow ends up as the raid weapon for Crota's End, Destiny Rising. Doesn't even seem real. How do we change 13 years of standards for a scout rifle that wasn't a seasonal activity? I was shocked when I heard Symmetry was the raid exotic. I was genuinely shocked. I was surprised they even were that bold to take the step like that. And he is right. All of the raid weapons in that raid suck. I mean, we've had chats about this on stream with the entire community. Why didn't we get things like Black Hammer I believe is what it's called. The sniper. Why didn't we get things like that? Why didn't we get Hunger of Crota with the cluster bombs and maybe even tracking module? Why didn't we get Ward of Crota to provide a void option for hand cannons? Like, I just feel like there were so many missed opportunities with Crota. I mean, the raid race itself was excellent. Like, I didn't get Worlds first. I got Worlds 7th. We were in the lead for Worlds first for the first 3 encounters. And then, of course, we dropped to number 7. And, you know, I'm fine with that. But, like, the raid itself was fine. But, like, they really missed the opportunities with the loot inside of that raid. None of it's aspirational. So, Revoker, I agree with you all the way. As for the cheating stuff that Revoker mentioned as well in his second point, I don't remember at all of the things that they were doing. It's been a little while now, but what I do remember is that people were able to, so like first encounter, you were able to like death warp or something like that, where you wouldn't even have the darkness on you. So when it came time for the leaderboards and the leaderboard rush phase, people were just skipping over first encounter, just running to the end because there was no darkness buff on you. Second encounter, I don't know what they were doing. I don't even remember, but apparently there was something in second encounter where you were able to get the swords across or something. I don't even know, but something second encounter you're able to do. And also, not to mention the fact that second encounter literally had the invisible thralls, which were annoying. Third encounter, Deathsinger, that was bugged. Like that was a bugged encounter. And then fourth encounter, Crota, was they were doing some glitch or whatever, I think, with where you could get infinite heavy or whatever, or like you could max out your heavy and data analysis on Hellhest or whatever. So that created an opportunity where you're able to clear Crota, you know, obviously a lot faster to push that leaderboard rush phase up for the people who are doing that to get their names up higher on the leaderboard. Revoker, if you're listening, you'll have to drop more of the details on how they were running some of the exploits or whatever. But I agree with his third point. And actually, Revoker knows a lot about this. He saw me firsthand impacted with this, with the Calamity. But as most of you know, I used to actually host Calamity Helps, and actually Revoker would actually come in and help me do these helps for the community. And it got to the point, you know, just like he's saying, to where I didn't have the right units I had the units, but they weren't the meta units. I was running Tan when it should have been like a Hellhest, for example. And we somehow made it work back when we were doing helps. And when I tried to build my units, such as Ningfei had got, at the time, he was pushed out of the rotation, and I gave him everything I had. So I sat for a whole Calamity cycle and actually got demoted because I didn't have the right unit to even run the activity. And, you know, Revoker offered me tons and tons of help, him and, you know, his crew. And he saw I was one of the people who was impacted by that, because it takes 2 weeks before you even are able to, you know, to restart the cycle. And I said this back in the first podcast. Why is it that we're even having to wait 2 weeks to begin with? It's stupid. Why can't we have it reset every once a week? That would help the materials a crap ton, where you're able to get the materials a lot faster than putting it out every 2 weeks. And so, you know, I don't know. It's such a tricky system with the whole leaderboard thing that they're doing right now, and the resets, because like Revoker said, you know, you only have like a choice of 3 to 4 characters, and there isn't really any variety with it, man. There's nothing aspirational to that, like he's saying, and you're just creating a loop of Calamity at this point, and it's just not fun to play. It isn't. It really isn't. Revoker goes on to say the leaderboard system's cool and all, but it promotes so much toxicity in the game, and also promotes whaling on the game so that people can be relevant. If you have a Hellhest but not T6, you are not playing Hellhest in any content unless it's fair play raids. The fact that there are characters that almost require you to be a T6 in order to play them in in-game content is really dumb. Revoker couldn't have said it better. I think he ties the knot on the conversation there. I couldn't have said it better. The fact that you need a T6 Hellhest to compete, especially in Calamity, because that's the only in-game. I can do a T1 Expanse Hellhest and get by pretty okay. I can make heavy pretty okay. But for Calamity, it's really sad. It's really sad. I did ask Revoker. He didn't respond to me. So Revoker, if you're listening, I do want an answer to this, because when I asked, you didn't respond. But he says that they were just trying to put out content at this point so they wouldn't get sued. I don't know what that means. So I just wanted to provide clarification on that. I'm not entirely too sure what he meant by that. So Revoker, if you're watching, please give us some context what you mean by that, because I'm actually genuinely curious. I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to like the whole like licensing or whatever it is that they have going on between the two of them. So if you can give me some context on that, I'd actually appreciate it, because I'm actually interested a little bit more in that, on how they would get or how NetEase would get sued by Bungie with like trying in terms of like putting content out. But going on, Rave, another Lord's Best. Rave, happy belated birthday if you're watching. I love you bunches. I hope you had a great day. You are truly, you and Revoker both are truly amazing, and I love you both, and I appreciate both of you more than anything. But yes, Rave comes up and he says, I think more pack activities events would be cool if they had good rewards. And I actually agree with Rave. I think, and I actually said this in the first podcast, I think Destiny Rising was really innovative when it came to the pack system, because we, for the longest time, and even still to this day, to my knowledge, there's no clan interactions on Destiny 2, right? There's no clan interactions whatsoever. You can play the game and be top 10 in the game on Destiny 2 without being in a clan. And so I think Destiny Rising actually took the initiative and went a step further, introducing pack raids, the pack maps, things like that to do with your crew. But of course it does get played out, because it's the same thing every week. It just gets reset. And so I agree with him. I think if you added more activities in that regard, that would be really, really cool. And I would love to see how they would spin that. So NetEase, if you're listening, get on that immediately. I think that'd be a great idea. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Mean Green S197, he comes out and he says, I think a big part of the issue is that they lost so much money in this game that they don't want the paid development cost to push out content fast. In return, it's killing the game. Now, I have mixed opinions on this, Mean, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I just have mixed opinions on it. And I actually agree with you to an extent. And I want to use your comment as an example. When we look at the two new latest units in the game, right? Ikora and Caber the Resolute. With Caber, when they reintroduced him, which in my opinion was really a miss. I don't think they should have redid Caber, but when they did, they had like a whole thing around him, right? It was like a little thing, whatever, some quest dialogues or whatever. They had like a new trailer for him. They actually pushed it out. It was okay, is what you come to expect when they drop a new unit. But Ikora, on the other hand, they didn't do any of that with Ikora. And I think what you're saying is right, because they didn't push a trailer out with Ikora. The only thing Ikora got was a Twitter post. That's all she got. She didn't even get a trailer. And so I think you're right. I think the big part of the issue is that they have lost a lot of the money. And so they're not even pushing, if they are pushing development costs, they're cutting corners now to conserve what they are, we know what they have. I don't know how much it costs to make a trailer. That's not even my role of expertise, but from the sensor charts that we saw earlier, I don't know if that's in the indicator that, with Ikora that just released, how we didn't even get a trailer and all we got was a Twitter post. I don't know. It could be a red flag, guys. I think Mean Green's onto something with that. He goes on to actually address an earlier point that we discussed earlier. He says they spent $100 million on IP. They spent $100 million on IP and have only made about $18 million since the game launched. Compare that to NetEase other games that have made over $50 million in the first month, and that makes this game an afterthought for them more than likely. Now that is actually a really good point, Mean. I did not know that. I did not know they acquired it for 100 mil. And you know what's scary? I want to add to your point there, Mean. I know I'm not too knowledgeable on this. Like I said, I'm not a mobile gamer. But they had another game that they had on mobile. I think it was like that Marvel Heroes or whatever the heck it's called on mobile. And they shut it off. It wasn't even a year into production, and they shut that game off. And it kind of makes me, and I think that game was, it was worked on by NetEase, and it kind of makes me wonder if, Destiny Rising's heading in the same direction with, the state of the game. It really makes me wonder. So I think that's just some food for thought. Lord Daka comes in. Lord Daka, hope you've been good, man. Hope you have been really amazing. He comes in and says, don't make false promises. They posted Master Campaign, getting us hyped, and then gave us crap. I'm sorry, that was funny. He says, that one act made me so... I'm sorry. I literally bought D2 Renegades. I'm sorry. Oh my god. That was funny. For those of you who are not understanding what he means, let me elaborate. Actually, I just found out something to this I want to add to Lord Daka's point here. They hosted, so they brought in what they call Grandmaster campaign. And so essentially it's like a little bit harder version than the challenge version, and you get the same amount of rewards. I think the only difference is that you get like a extra 1.5% drop chance for the photons that we discussed earlier in this podcast. And so it was really, when it launched, it was considered to be a joke, because there was nothing really to it. I think you were better off just running legendary campaign for the resources, because you could run that technically faster than you could the Grandmaster and still come out probably with more resources than you would on the Grandmaster campaign. And so I actually want to add something to that. That he said here. I didn't realize that it was actually a limited time event. Now I get it was catastrophic. I get the whole Grandmaster campaign things actually was catastrophic, but I didn't realize that it was like an event that would leave at the end of Act 1. And I really feel like that was a missed opportunity. I think they could have fixed the Grandmaster campaign. And if I'm just, speaking, this is speaking to NetEase, I think they could have fixed the Grandmaster campaign. I would have upped it to maybe 5%. I think 5% would have been fair. At the very least, I think 10% is what everyone was hoping. Or 7% to match the exotic mods from like the Singularity Chaos. I think 7% would have been fine. 7 to 10% would have been an ideal range, but 5% at the very least, right? And of course, I would have upped I would have upped the exotic confusion cores. I would have upped it from 8? I would have thrown on another 10, make it 90. If you're using the accelerator thing, and I think that would have been fair, and I would have grinded that. But I didn't realize that they were going to take it out of the game at the end of Act 1, and so that was a really missed opportunity. That whole event was a missed opportunity, and it was so bad to the point it made Lord Daka go and buy D2 Renegades. So, Daka, appreciate the comment. Thank you so much. That actually just made my day. So, thank you. All right, so we have another feedback from the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Saren Colley. For those of you who don't know Saren, quick introduction to him. He is actually the guy who brought us the Ikora video on this channel. I appreciate him 1000% for coming in and helping us with that Ikora build. And also, for those of you who don't know, he is, or was, I'm not too sure where he sits now on the leaderboard, but he was, at least when I was talking to him and when we recorded the video, he was the #1 Ikora in the game for NA. and he brought a lot of knowledge and a lot of depth to that unit, and he rode by Ikora on everything, whether it was Calamity, contest raids, strikes, whatever. It was Ikora for the win for that guy. And so he comes out and he gives us a little TLDR, and he says, nerf Hellhest and take the L with an amount, nerf Hellhest and take the L with an amount of 5-star and 4-star capsules, or do a rerun of her. I think that'd be a great idea. Introduce ammo generation in older characters, for example, Tan 2 or Umiko, with gameplay loops, but allow Hellhest the distinction of when desired generation instead of other unit side effects of gameplay. So I will say it's either you can do that, or they can introduce heavy ammo synthesis. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't, if I would lean a little bit more towards the NetEase way and say they don't introduce heavy ammo generation on Tan and Umiko. I think it would be a cool idea if they did, right? Especially Umiko, because she's a 4-star, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there with Umiko with the debuffs and everything. But if they don't, I think heavy ammo, the synthesis, I think that would be a great way to go. I think controller players, you can easily input that onto like a D-pad button. You could, keybind that obviously to one of the keybinds on keyboard and mouse, touchscreen, give it its own little button or whatever. And so I feel like heavy ammo, since like you could pop it once every 3 minutes, gives you like, what, 10 shots, or like it gives you like 45% of the mag back, right? And I think that would be, or maybe all of it back, who knows what they would be willing to do at the intervals of which they would let you use it. So that is a good point. I think what we do need is some type of heavy ammo generation outside of Hellhest. And I think we said that earlier, like a T1, like Revoker said, if you're running T1 Hell, or if you have a T1 Hellhest, you're not running it besides Fair Play raid mechanics when those drop, right? And like I told you guys, when I tried to run my T1 Hellhest into Calamity because people didn't have a T6, I can't make heavy as much as a T6 can, or a T4, or whatever it is. And so I think heavy ammo synthesis, in my opinion, would be a great way to go. But he goes on to say, find ways to step away from a double Hellhest meta, or at least make differing sides where a non-2x Hellhest comp might work out. Precision down auras, all of Morgan's might be an opinion, or an option, excuse me. I agree with him. A lot of the time you'll see like a 2x Hellhest with like a Ningfei, especially if it's an arc cycle, like an arc solar cycle like it was that one time. And so I think that's where we have to start promoting. And I agree. And you know what? I do agree with him on the first one too. I think if you promote things like Tan 2, who can compete in the solar precision versus a Hellhest with Arbalest, I think there's some opportunity there. So I actually agree with Saren on this. Find ways to allow for more find ways to allow for more grinding of time locked resources, something like X fragments per activity completed every 10 pinnacle used, and can be combined to trade in for artifact and or talent cluster or so. Make it something like one a week or so, that would require constant gameplay, but wouldn't result in higher rates than Calamity expands. Allow for Iron Bar to be more desirable. Could be materials from for the artifact talent clusters, or allow for mobile users the option to queue into emulator side. I agree with him. I know we were doing that mobile queuing for emulators to find matches. I agree with everything he said. I agree with him 1000%. And I said that, what he just said, I said that in the first podcast. I said, if you take, let's say, just the clusters or like the artifactual essences and just throw that into like an Iron Bar, and for people who are targeting that specific material and want to actually farm with their friends instead of Singularity Chaos, that gives like a perfectly good playlist to play with your friends for a few hours and to be able to earn some resources and that. So I don't know. It's lost opportunity once again, so. All right, so Nadi Ilea comes in and says, these are in no particular order. They have to give us a way to get past characters. excuse me, they have to give us a way to get past characters, either add cycle them in standard banner, or rerun the banners when they line up again with the corresponding Shinka type. Cycle the season element and Shinka type bi-weekly. Keep up the current featured character included in it, but change the other type too. That's actually a great idea. I didn't think about that. That's actually a great idea. He goes on to say photons need to be less bottlenecked at a minimum. Allow us to reset exotic weapons. We can already do this with the enhancements at the cost of some of the glimmer. That's another great idea. I didn't think of that. That's a great idea. Let us use the catalyst crafting materials to synthesize photons. More ways to get the random artifact reroll items as free to play. Add additional paid ways to get choice ones. We need a game mode for slower moving defensive characters to shine, and Calamity Ops and Gordon, aren't inherently bad, but they are incredibly repetitive and riddled with unstuck and death warp cheese strats. Oh my god, I love this guy already. He goes on to say more 3-man strikes, add more variety for Calamity Ops and other game modes that use the same maps. Make use of the 6-man blitz maps, maybe even adapt them to 3-man strikes for more variety. Outside of doing Grandmasters for impact spread mods, I don't do anything with these maps. Give artifactual essence when dismantling exotic artifacts. Ooh, that is actually a great idea. Ooh, I like this. That's actually a great idea. There are 2 primary weapons and 1 power weapon that are used by 1 character each: sidearms, fusion rifle, rocket launcher. We need to balance out the weapon types a bit more between characters, as well as the choices for different types of weapons. We have so many choices for scout rifles, shotguns, and hand cannons and swords, but much less when it comes to bows, like grenade launchers or linear fusion rifles. Great idea. I really agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Like breaking down exotic mods for the essences. That's the maps for the Blitz, introducing those as 3-man activities, maybe for, who knows, Calamity. That would be a really great idea. That's actually great. I appreciate that. Thank you. Kelton comes in and says, I love the game, but my biggest complaint is Calamity Ops. The unstuck is cheating, and the dying on purpose is dumb and should be punished. If they gave unstuck and dying a point penalty, then the game would be more fair. Let me reread that. He says, if they gave unstuck and dying a point penalty, then the game would be more fair. It's all about getting a clean run. So dying is a bad run. Dying could be like a 50k point deduction per death. That would make it so people stop dying, or make it 100k. Whatever it takes to stop the force dying. So before I go any further, actually, let me read the entire thing, then I'll elaborate what he means. And this penalty could only be for expert and above. That allows the lower ranks to die because they are learning. The unstuck should be completely removed from Calamity Ops. If you glitch and can't move, just restart the game. Also, releasing characters that are 4-star and making them 5-star is lazy. Just make new characters, but that's minor compared to how badly they need to fix Calamity Ops. Okay, so Kelton, I actually love you 1000%. This is actually real head on, and I like how you even said maybe even 100k just to like press some buttons. So for those of you who don't know what he means about the dying portion, since this wasn't explained earlier, these are what you call death warps. So similar to what I was explaining to you guys with the unstuck earlier, you're able to die in some areas, causing what they call death warps to put you further into the region to start earning higher points at higher multipliers. The higher the multiplier you are. And so what he's suggesting is, if you want to fix the death warp issue, instead of completely removing it, let it stay in a game, but count deaths no matter what it is, a 50k point deduction or 100k point deduction. And for those of you who play Calamity, like 100k, even 50k point deduction puts you far behind in the leaderboards in terms of the ranking. So I think 100k to most may sound a bit excessive, but you know what? I'm actually all for it. I think I'm all for it. I think it's gotten to the point to where we need to take executive action. And I think 100K makes perfect sense, Kelton. I would agree with you, and I agree that if your game is bugged for whatever reason and you're stuck, restart the game. And you won't be stuck anymore. So there's no need for an unstuck button. I mean, we've had Destiny 2 for how many years? 13 years. Every time we got stuck, we just quickly change characters, get back in. Not really too much of an inconvenience, right? So I think we can do the same thing here with Destiny Rising. No exceptions. Get rid of the unstuck button. And I agree with his comment about the making 4 stars into 5 stars is just lazy. I agree 1000%. But there isn't much I can do on that. Hopefully they're listening to us. And yeah. But I actually love this. I agree with everything he said here. Beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I love it. Got another feedback coming in from Vizu Arath. Vizu, I hope you're doing good. Missed you so much. Hope you are really doing good. Vizu comes in and says, in my opinion, expand more perks. Why do they even make blue and purple perks? Maybe revamp some weaker perks into mythic perks, then put it on newer guns or whatever. Great idea. If they want, if they still want to push Morgan Hunt, then maybe add some exclusive loot to Morgan's Hunt. Unique guns that you can only obtain from Morgan's Hunt events if they're gonna keep shoving it down our throats. I believe if you make loot good, people wouldn't mind grinding the heck out of it. I actually agree with you a lot on this one, Arath. For example, some of the Croto weapons, I think some of them, not all, at least I have to go back and look at it. Some of them roll with Feeding Frenzy, and some of them, you know, roll with Bullseye. Like, these are they're not bad perks, they're actually really good. So if they were to revamp some of those perks into mythic perks, makes those weapons viable. So I agree with you 1000%. And I agree with you on Morgan's Hunt. Morgan's Hunt was actually good when it first launched, but when they keep shoving it down your throats every month, you know, it just kind of gets repetitive. So I agree with you. Adding exclusive weapons to the activity would make it really good. I actually agree with that. That's actually a great feedback. I appreciate that a lot, Vizu Arath. Next up, Gods comes in. He says, allow for improved build optimizations and revamp the entire artifact system. Add set bonuses, connect the 3rd and 4th slot interchangeably, stop adding weapons with absolutely terrible roll options, and consider adding their mod upgrade if you're going to even bother showing its traits. The players do not need garbage such as Eager, Aspirant, and what does it say? Sympathetic? I can't even see my monitor. Sympathetic? Yeah, that's what it says. Sympathetic Arsenal. When we already only get 20 weapon rolls per week, unless we want to grind through the boredom of which is Bulwark. Stop decreasing the amount of battle pass tokens we get each season, which I don't know why they're doing that. Like, what the F are we supposed to do when there are now 5 different weapons we can grab, but we only get 20 something tokens for free? Definitely nerf Hellhest. Like, that's a crap. Oh my god, definitely nerf Hellhest. Like, that crap's a given. So I actually want to break this down. For those of you who don't know, Destiny Rising actually used to do set bonuses back in the closed alpha and closed beta. When the closed beta ended, they actually revamped. This is like the 3rd revamp we're on right now. They actually did away with the set bonuses. But if I can find some footage, I'll try to put it out on here. I don't know if I have any of the closed beta footage still, but I have to go check. But they did have set bonuses, but it caused an issue with power. It caused like a really big issue with the power, and it was like set bonuses was giving you power and all this other stuff, and it was causing so much instability in terms of the builds. So they actually ended up getting rid of it per the final release of the game. But I would love to see something like that come back. I think it would add more build variety options, because let's say you're rocking, let's say, the Bellicose set, right? The Plantasmal set for slots 3 and 4, and let's just say you're rocking, you know, 2 pieces out of the 4, then let's say it gives you, you know, increased ability charge rate at like 20% or something like that would be really insane. And it would help with build optimizations. It even probably competes with some of the in-game content at T1 units, even T0. So that's a really good idea, and I think they should pursue it. Are they going to? I don't know, because they already removed it out of the game. So like it seems like it could be a possibility, but if they already removed it out of the game, it makes me think otherwise. So I don't know. Soundwave actually comes in and responds to everyone that is criticizing Hellhest, and he says, for those saying nerf Hellhest damage, that just isn't going to happen, so let's focus on what can. Calamity should be 3 Shinkas and 3 elements with each stage of the 3-stage strike. Okay, let me reread that. Calamity should be 3 Shinkas and 3 elements with each stage of the 3-stage strike being a different element and Shinkas or a combination of 2. This would increase the variety of team comps and put light bearers with multi-Shinka or element coverage into the spotlight. This with a heavy ammo adjustment of more bricks, but each brick give half the ammo it normally does. We address the Hellhest dominance without nerfing arc, precision, into the ground. That way she is still great at DPS, but her being a requirement no longer stands. At least this way Calamity doesn't require T6 Hellhest like it currently does in Masters Plus. So Soundwave, I agree with you. I never really thought about it like that. Because to elaborate a little bit more on what Soundwave is saying, guys, for those of you who are Destiny 2 players, once again, are just new to the Destiny Rising game, Calamity is on a 2-week rotation with 2 elements and 2 Shinkas. So what Soundwave is suggesting here, and this is addressing Hellhest, is if you want to bring more players into the spotlight, bring in, let's say, another Shinka into that rotation with all 3 of the elements. That way it forces a 3rd unit to be in the rotation instead of it being Hellhest all the time, and where it's quote-unquote a requirement. And I actually agree with this because, for example, let's say spread, right? You're running spread, let's say rapid fire, and let's say impact. Obviously, that would be a rotation in which Hellhest wouldn't be needed, but could be viable to units like Tan, maybe, or Umako, maybe, Maru, and or Ikora, Ningfei, Wolf, maybe. So it opens up a different variety of units that you can bring in. So that's actually a great feedback, Soundwave. I'm surprised I didn't even think of that. That's really great. Good stuff, man. So that's pretty much everything. I've kind of scrolled up and down this Discord channel just to make sure I didn't miss anyone's comments or whoever posted in this feedback channel. So I want to thank everyone who posted in the feedback channel. I greatly appreciate you. And for those of you, if I did not get you, if I somehow skimmed over your name, I apologize. We had a lot of feedback submissions. But NetEase, ultimately, everyone spoke up for you. Everyone in this video that I showcased they all don't necessarily agree with me. They may not agree with everything I say, or I may not agree with everything they say. But we all agree on one thing, and that is that we all love the game. We want it to succeed, but you make it hard for the game to succeed at the state of where it is. And our hopes is that we hope that you guys listen to this video, listen to some of the small adjustments that we provided here. This is our way of speaking up from my community and from your community. We hope you listen. And we hope, we all hope to see some serious changes, because with games like Marathon on the rise coming here soon in March, and Division's Resurgence launching here in Q1, games like Doing That Abyss, which is already taking a lot of the gacha market where it stands right now, to my understanding from people who have been talking to me, you guys got to make some serious adjustments, and hopefully Season 4 is going to pack that punch for us. So Everyone, thank you so much for coming by for episode 4 of Lord's Cast podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. And as always, we're live on Twitch, everybody. I may have been gone for some time, but I'm back. The People's Champ is here. And whether it be Destiny Rising or Marathon or Division's Resurgence, I am here. So I'll see you guys over on Twitch at LordBrandon10. Make sure to check the pinned comments down below for our amazing Discord server. Join in. We have an amazing gaming community, whether it be Destiny Rising, Arc Raiders, Marathon, whatever. We've got a lot of people who love games in there, so come in, hang out with us. And until the next one, guys, I'll see you then. Peace out, Girl Scouts. Bye.